This is a time of what my friend Reverend Brenda calls knuckles to the concrete spirit work. That's not an affirmation, so any of you that don't feel like you're there, just let it go with light wings and fly off. But give me an amen if you know what I'm talking about and you've been feeling it. Yeah. So if you've been feeling like this time is a time of knuckles to the concrete spirit work, remember that you are not alone. You are in no way alone. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing in you that needs to be fixed. We are showing up in this time, in this space, in our lives, in our families, in our communities, in our collective consciousness for some deep work. Now, you may hear all sorts of things about what this work may be about, and it's individual to you. So when you hear something that resonates, lean into that, explore that, because we are all unique, individual, unrepeatable patterns of the light expressing. And we each have our own mode and our way of going through life and doing our prayer work, doing our meditation work, doing our spiritual work. But there's one thing that can give us hope and reassurance, and that is that we're all in it together. I find that it doesn't bring me down when I have authentic sharing with other people about what's going on in their lives. It actually builds me up. It actually reminds me that there is nothing wrong with me, that this is part of the practice. This is part of the path. So for some people, there is an unraveling these days. And it is uncomfortable. An unraveling of beliefs, an unraveling of systems, of structures, of feeling like things are falling apart, feeling like there's chaos, seeing and sensing the discord, the power struggles, all of the things that we tend to in the human condition call so bad, and we want to just move them away immediately rather than stand in them, right? Because it burns, doesn't it? It burns to stand in it. But we know that the power of the flame is the power to transmute, the power to transcend, the power to transition. And when there is an unraveling, there is a great transition happening. For some, it feels like healing work of lifetimes. For some, what is up within us and what we see around us brings to mind that there is more going on than what the eye sees in this moment. I believe that when we're in times of great struggle, it is time to look into it and say, oh, so maybe some of this is what my soul came here to do. Maybe some of this work is the work that my spirit, whether it's the collective of many lifetimes or whether it's just here in this now moment, what I'm here to get, what I am here to presence, what I am here to stand in. And for many, it's presencing that in those around you, supporting a family member, supporting a friend, supporting individuals with mental health issues. It's an epidemic right now, isn't it? Mental health issues. So how do we stand in this fire and engage our spiritual practice? How do we lift ourselves up? How do we breathe into the practice and bring in the source that we know is everywhere available in each moment? In every moment accessible, absolute, and inexhaustible. How do we breathe into the truth that we are carried and cared for? How do we let go and let God? There's a scripture verse the master teacher said when talking about the kingdom of God, which we know is a state of consciousness, a state of awareness, a state of unification in God-mind. From Mark 4:26, it says, "The kingdom of God is like a man who casts seed upon the soil." Okay. So that means the state of freedom, the state of emancipation, the state of godliness, the state of holiness, the state of peace, the state of saturation in divine intelligence and absolute love is like the soul who casts seed upon the soil. So it says there's an action to do. There's a seed to be spread. And then it goes on to say, and he goes to bed at night and gets up by day, and the seed sprouts and grows. How? He himself does not know. The second part of that passage is where the good news is. The good news is that there's a part that is our part as individuals and as a collective. It's spreading the seed. It's preparing a space. It's preparing in mind. It's doing our work. But the beauty of the second part is that when we do that work, we can get up in the morning. We can go to bed at night. And the work is done. The seed sprouts. The plant becomes rooted. It grows. It flourishes. And it is harvested. It nourishes, and then it recycles, and the process repeats itself. It doesn't say cast the seed and then follow it, stare at it, stay up 24/7, hammer at it, do whatever you can, pull it, drag it, rip it, take it with you everywhere. Worry about it, toil, stress. Try to look at all the possibilities and make sure you can make the best choice. Try to figure out what to do. Figure it all out, all by yourself. In fact, what happens if you start to do that? What happens if you take the seed out, you go and you grab it and you bring it with you, and what does it not have anymore? It doesn't have the soil, which is the nourishment, the nutrients. It doesn't have the firmament. It doesn't have the spirit. It doesn't have the oxygen, the air. It doesn't have the spaciousness. It doesn't have the environment to be birthed. And that's the good news. That's the really good news. Because that good news speaks to the part of ourselves in the human condition that looks at outer circumstances or looks at our own life or our internal experience of being human and says, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to get from here to there. I don't know how to figure it out. And who hasn't felt in their lifetimes or recently like you are brought to your knees with that question? Heartbreaking. Hearts broken open. I mean, it's almost too much to talk about, isn't it? I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about, we don't even need to say anything, do we? We don't need to say it. Just feel our hearts. Feel our hearts. But the good news is that we were designed for this moment. The good news is it's okay to unravel. The good news is that all we are asked for, as far as our part, is the seed. So what is the seed? How do we create the space? How do we create the environment internally and externally that makes the space for what is being birthed right now in this unraveling? Stephen Covey, which most of you know as a best-selling author, he says, proactive people carry their own weather within them. Proactive people carry their own weather within them. That, to me, spiritually means that there is a practice that we can develop that goes with us. so that we're not uprooted and blown away constantly by external conditions, by the world around us, and even by the world within us. That we can, in fact, ride the waves. We can, in fact, presence the unraveling, presence the human condition. In the same space, we presence the spiritual condition. That there is more than enough room for all of it when we engage in a committed practice. So what do we do to carry the weather within us? What do we do? We begin working on our internal environment. Where are our words? Where are our thoughts? Where are our feelings? Start there. What brings you happiness, peace, love, joy? Where are the places that you can look out and look in and find moments of peace, moments of love, moments of gratitude? We too often think that life is about what we're doing, it's about our goals, it's about what we've achieved. But it's more about how we show up for everything. How we do everything that we do, not what we do. Our culture too much tends to value the displays, the expressions, the external conditions. But life is about showing up moment to moment. So what do we do when we experience a breakdown or an unraveling? We acknowledge what it is. There is a deconstruction happening. And deconstruction is uncomfortable. I once was in a Barnes & Noble bookstore and just browsing through the books, and I remember picking up this book, and I have since to try to find it again, but it was called Unraveled or Unraveling, and all of the books by those titles, which there are plenty, are not the book that I picked up, but I picked up this book, and it was about someone's journey leaving traditional Christianity. Leaving the Christianity that teaches that God is a person or a man or a figure or has a race and has judgments and is punitive and is watching, kind of like the white Santa God, but like a mean one. And the guilt and the difficulty allowing the unraveling. Because when you're grounded in something, when something is your foundation, when something is your belief, when something is your system, when something is your weather, and there is an unraveling, it can feel like there's nothing to hold on to. And this woman talked about the journey, and I just remember sitting on the floor at Barnes & Noble's thinking, I'm going to put this down in a second. I'm going to put this down in a second. And it was hours later that I'm still sitting there reading the book, watching her go through these experiences of guilt and letting go, of listening to her intuition and saying, there's got to be more. There's something's not resonating in my heart with where I am. This is constricting. This is not truth. This is not of love. There's got to be more. God's got to be greater than this. Whatever godness is, it's something else or it's nothing at all. And presencing herself going through the phases of being an atheist, being agnostic, and then having spaciousness. Being fully unraveled. The should unraveled. The guilt unraveled. The judgment about what's wrong unraveled. The despair unraveled. And just space. When deconstruction is happening, it's so critical that we create internal weather that is full of compassion, that is full of spaciousness, that is primed with unconditional love. There is more than enough love in the environment around us, and certainly the environment within us, to heal anything that needs to be healed, to reveal anything that needs to be revealed, and to guide each one of us and our togetherness in the actions that come forth from this moment. But what often happens in the human condition is that we don't trust this moment. So we either allow our minds to pull us into the future and into the discomfort, which we are not prepared for, which we do not have all the resources for, we do not have the insights for, we do not have the answers for, but the mind and the ego and the separate sense of self is saying, get me out of this fire, the flame is burning me. Rather than standing in the flame, as so many times is shared in Scripture. The flame, the divine flame, whether it's the bush burning, or whether it's just the discomfort of breathing into this moment and releasing the urge to get out of it and to go somewhere else, or to pull from the past and to just stand in it with compassion, grounded, rooted, going, even this cannot limit our good, cannot limit my good, cannot restrict, cannot cage, cannot hold back. Even in this moment, there is more than enough godness to move forward. The human condition, though, it wants to hop up here. And then what happens? When you hop out here, when you start digging in the soil, when you start taking up the seed, all you see is evidence that there's not enough. You don't have enough. You don't have the answers. You don't have the solutions. You don't know where to go to take the action or how to do it. Or you just see how you're trying and you're getting knocked back and knocked down again. Because you know what? We're getting knocked back into the present moment. And sometimes I think we'll keep getting knocked until we just sit here. Like, sit here. Because each time I try to crawl out, I feel like I get it again. Do you feel like that sometimes? It's like, what else? What else? And if you're not feeling this for yourself, that's okay. It's important to understand that this is part of the human condition, and this is part of the condition that we're seeing on mass levels and individual levels around us. Because if you're not experiencing it for yourself, you're here to hold the high watch. You're here to understand it, and you're here to stay steady. You're here to be the lighthouse. You're here to be the tower. You're here to be the beacon. Not to judge and go, what is that? What is this? But to be the space to see it and call forth peace. Peace, be still. In AA, they call this time, and if we could think of it as a collective time, they call it hitting rock bottom. And I saw this anonymous quote, I don't know who it came from, but it said, considering how my life is going lately, it turns out that rock bottom has a basement. I didn't know there was a basement, but apparently there is. Humor is critical. So we're witnessing collective crisis on many levels, and our collective prayer is heal me at depth. Be in me the power to be in this moment and to the power to be in this discomfort, so that I don't drive by it this time saying that's not mine to do. That's not my work to do. I'm not part of the collective. I don't know what's happening over there. I don't know what's happening in that state, in that country, in that person. I don't know what's happening over there. That has nothing to do with me. Well, friends, if it came across your eyes, if it whispered or screamed into your ears, if it flashed before you, if it brought up an emotion within you, yes, it's part of our work. It's part of our work to metabolize the energies of today that are within us. And when we do this work for ourselves, we do it on behalf of the collective. There is something unseen, and that's when there is an unraveling and when there is deconstruction, there is power in the space that is being created. Because nothing can be destroyed. Nothing can be destroyed. Nothing can be destroyed that is unchangeable. The foundation of who we are as souls, the foundation of love, life that has no opposite. There may be a birthing, and there may be an unraveling or a deconstruction. And there may be what seems like nothingness in the midst of that unraveling. But there is spaciousness, and there is power in the space being created, and there is hope on the horizon of the new birth. It's hard to be in it. We want to run, we want to hide, we want to either fix it or control it or strong arm it. But the weather we're really called to create is to get quiet, to expand our meditation, to create space, to prosper kindness, to begin really working on our internal environment and how we show up for everything and for everyone. We get to remember, thank Godness, that we don't have to do it all and that we don't have to have all the answers. That doesn't mean that we don't act, does it? In fact, action is Unity's fifth principle. Act on the truth you know. Act on the good you know. Act even when you're uncomfortable. Act even when you don't feel courageous. But we act on what comes from our grounded nature, from the silence. When we know we have the seed. So the practice, whether or not we feel like we're coming unraveled or whether or not we're supporting someone else, what is the practice? Because we can all be out of sorts. We can all pull ourselves out of the present moment, or we can all enter into what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, what can feel like just off or out of it or stuck, an impasse. The first step is to observe, to move into self. The self that watches, that presences. To just step into observation mode. Just to observe enough to create a little space. Have a little curiosity about what's going on. Observe, listen, the patterns, what you see within you, what you see around you. Without judgment. The observer doesn't have judgment. The observer brings us into just presencing. And the next is to awaken. To become aware faster. Faster each time. I was asleep. Okay, here I am again. Whoa, I just lost it. Here I am again. And if we need to bring songs to mind or things to mind that get us into the Zen practice, where we just get so still and so quiet, we just say, the clouds are rolling by. I feel a raindrop on my skin. Present moment awareness. Then we do that. We do whatever it is that just brings us into this moment, what is really happening in this moment internally. We become aware faster. We snap out of it. This also embraces accountability. We become accountable for what we do, for how we show up, and we just make a new choice. That's awakening, just making a new choice. I was asleep. I'm awake now. What we don't need to do, but is the human condition and the most common experience in the stage of awakening, is we tend to dive into the tunnel of blame, shame, overanalyzing, helplessness, being a victim or calling someone else the cause, being all sorts of expressions in mind that lead us into a downward spiral. And all those things are simply not helpful, not resourceful, not productive. They're ordinary. And as long as we're doing them, it's what we're doing. But the moment we wake up, the moment we have stepped into observation mode and then awakening and we see it, it's ours to just clear the slate. Here I am now. I'm listening now. You know, like a mother trying to get her child to listen. Hey, hon, hey, hon, hey, hon. Not listening. Then, okay. Then just move forward from there. You don't need to go, here are all the times you weren't listening. Why aren't you ever listening to me? Hey, can't you hear my voice? No, I'm here now. Shh. Moving forward. Not engaging in what is unproductive, not helpful, not resourceful, not engaging in the downward spiral. And then the third step is to learn. To really learn. And we can only learn when we decide to fully know ourselves, when we decide to take the impartial view of the observer. See, if we're in the guilt, if we're in the blame, whether it's about our world or about what's going on within us, or our families, our communities, whatever it is, if we're in those things, we're not in the observer. And when we're not in the observer self, we cannot be in the awakened self. Because the awakening is about just seeing. The observer is about being neutral. Awakening, we see it, we're accountable, we stop, and we move forward. From this moment into what's the next right action. I don't have to figure out the whole plan. What's the next step of right action? Not to guilt ourselves, but to get clear on where our power is. That's why we stand in our awakening. So that we can get clear. The power is right here in this moment. You can feel it, right? You can feel when your power starts draining, when you're in some sort of mental conditioning or emotional spiral and it's not going anywhere. Rooted and grounded in this moment. And then we learn ourselves. We know. We begin to get versed in the observation and the awakening, and we begin to then see patterns in our world around us and in our world within us. And wisdom teaches us to just kind of nutshell those patterns. Give them names. Give them little labels. Don't give them enough of a story that they drag you under, right? But give them the light touch. As if you're in a courtroom and you're at a trial, and anytime some of the other garbage comes up, you just say, "Objection, Your Honor," leading the witness. "Objection, Your Honor," relevancy. "Objection, Your Honor," hearsay. "Objection, Your Honor," this is my favorite one, badgering the witness. Learn your patterns. Learn our collective tendencies. Call them what they are. Objection, Your Honor, so that we can bring what is honorable into the space, creating the weather pattern for mindfulness. And the litmus test is to check ourselves at the door anytime. I do this with myself. Anytime my mind thinks something outside must change for me to feel better. Something outside must change for me to be okay. Anytime I think, I can put off this work till tomorrow. The solution's going to be available tomorrow. The relief is going to be available tomorrow. When I X, Y, Z, then A, B, C. I know I'm in illusion, not in spiritual practice. Anytime I think there's not enough, I feel there's not enough. There's not enough. You fill in the blank. What is it? What's the story you've been telling yourself lately? There's not enough this, that. I've got a lot of them. Not outside, not tomorrow, nothing needed. It's not outside. peace in this moment is a matter of awareness over external change. Not that it won't express as external change and collective change, but the shift that is needed for the change will be internal. It will not be a maneuvering of circumstances. When we hear ourselves say we can't possibly in these circumstances, in this world, in this situation, not the case. We can in this situation, in these circumstances, in this moment. Now, that internal shift may be the thing that's needed for the external unraveling, the crackling, whatever is going to happen. It may very well be. It may accompany change. Change might walk right with it, might dance right in. But the seed, the environment, is to stand in the midst even of the fire and say, the fire doesn't need to go away for me to feel okay. I mean, what happens if you're an alchemist and you're using, fire and then you put it out, what happens? The human condition is wanting to put it out. The spiritual condition knows that there is an alchemy happening, that there is a shift, a transition, a deconstruction, and an unraveling. When we say tomorrow, the solution or the answer is only available tomorrow, the truth is right now. It's not even in a distant future. The master teacher walked this and taught this, and people have demonstrated this in our lifetimes and before. In the most insane of conditions, overcoming. And there is nothing needed, nothing that is not present right here, right now, in each now moment is needed. Yeah, if we hop into the tomorrows and the yesterdays, there's a lot needed because we don't have what we need for those. They're not here right now. It's right here, right now. And all source is here. All resources right here. It's within me. It's around me. It's among us as the solution. It's right here, right now. So can we tell ourselves that? Nothing needs to change for me to be okay in this moment. There is nothing missing that I need to get for me to be okay in this moment. And there's no waiting that needs to happen for me to be okay in this moment. That's the portal. That's the practice. That's the meditation. Doesn't mean that we like what's going on around us. Doesn't mean that we don't want it to change. But it means that how we show up for it matters. How we get to it and through it is part of it and will birth it. So we stand there. To get to it, we have to go through it. I want to share with you, and I invite you to just take a breath and open your heart. I want to share with you the words from Oriah Mountain Dreamer in her poem, The Call. She says, I have heard it all my life, a voice calling a name I recognize as my own. Sometimes it comes as a soft-bellied whisper. Sometimes it holds an edge of urgency. But always it says, wake up, my love. You are walking asleep. There's no safety in that. Wake up, my love. You are walking asleep. There is no safety in that. Remember what you are and let a deeper knowing color the shape of your humanness. There is nowhere to go. What you are looking for is right here. Open the clenched fist in wanting and see what you already hold in your hand. There is no waiting for something to happen, no point in the future to get to. All you have ever longed for is here in this moment right now. You are wearing yourself out with all this searching. Come home and rest. How much longer can you live like this? Your hungry spirit is gaunt, your heart stumbles, all this trying. Give it up. Let yourself be one of the God-mad, faithful only to the beauty you are. Let the lover pull you to your feet and hold you close, dancing even when your fear urges you to sit this one out. Remember there is one word, and you are here to say with your whole being, there is one word you're here to say with your whole being. When it finds you, give it your life. Give your life to it. Don't be tight-lipped and stingy. Spend yourself completely on the saying. Be one word in this great love poem we are writing together. Oriah Mountain Dreamer. What is the word, the one word of your becoming right now, at this time, in this space? What is the call to your heart? Gentleness, kindness. Let my presence birth grace in each moment. Let my practice and let my weather be enough to sustain me. And let my seed be honorable in thy court. Namaste. So let's take a few breaths into a moment of meditation, just connecting with your heart, connecting so fully with what is up for us, creating a space of gentleness within. It is safe to be real. It is safe to be authentic. It is safe to be in this now moment. This now moment can handle all of me, my humanity, my spirituality. In this moment, God is. I am. In this moment, there is spaciousness. In this moment is my breath, my freedom. May the light that fills this moment saturate my awareness from center to circumference. May every aspect of my being be uplifted in this remembrance. I take a deep inhale and a mighty exhale of release, releasing the idea that I have to wait, releasing the idea that I have to strong arm or change all of the circumstances in order to create spaciousness, mindfulness, and grounding. I release and I arrive right here in this moment, knowing that it is all that is asked of me. This moment is the seed. This moment is the seed. And in my mind, with divine mind, I create the weather. From this space, I remember that all I need to this moment do is cast the seed. And that doesn't mean tossing it away from where I am. That means expanding within me, recognizing that the soil is all around, the air, the sun, the breath, the spirit. All that is needed is right here. And I claim this practice in the silence. Let it be done in me, through me, as me. Namaste.